Hi students, I am Dr. M. Ashraf Majrooh, Professor of Community Medicine. I welcome you in the learning session of Occupational Health. The highlights of this learning session are the health stressors at workplaces, the scope of occupational health, the workplace interactions, common occupational health hazards, preventive strategies of occupational workers. The definition of occupational health is prevention of disease and maintenance of highest degree of physical, mental, and social well-being of the workers. So this is the definition. WHO matches with the WHO definition of health, and the main components of this definition are the prevention of diseases and then maintenance of physical, mental, and social well-being of the workers at workplaces. So this is basically the uh, health care of the workers at workplaces. So we will classify the health stressors at workplaces. The health worker is exposed to physical, biological, chemical, and social stressors while he is at the workplace. And then what are the physical stressors? The physical stressors include the temperature that may be low or high at workplace. Then the process of machine um, uh, produce noise and extensive force that may lead to accident, then vibrations, then weather conditions at workplaces, radiation and pressure. So these are the physical factors that causes stress at workplace. Then biological stressors. The biological stressors include the insects, molds, viruses, fungi, bacteria, and the human to human interactions are also included in the biological stressors. Next is the chemical stressors at workplaces. These are various types of gases. We will take on what are the health effects of these gases, then water vapors, carcinogens, allergens, mists and fumes, then dust and fibers. These are the chemical stressors at workplace. Then last but not least, the social factors that are very important to deal in the income, the justice, social and health justice, job security, health care, and insurances. These are also for the social harmony, and if they are, they can cause stress at workplaces. So this is the classification of the health stressors at workplaces. And then we will deal with the scope of uh, occupational health. The occupational health covers anticipation, evaluation, and control of risks at workplaces. What are these? How we can anticipate the health risks? This includes to foresee and identify the potential health risks at workplaces. Then we anticipate the existing exposure and forecast the uh, uh, coming exposures are risks at workplaces. Then in evaluation of health risks, um, the monitoring of environment and monitoring of the health workers. Monitoring of environment mean the taking sample of the environment of the workers, and monitoring of health workers mean examination of health workers or taking the lab samples of the health workers. Then the analysis and interpretation of the data, and that will evaluate actually the risks at workplaces. Then control of health risks, that includes the health promotion techniques and designing safe equipment and processes at workplaces. Then occupational safety laws and social securities. This is the scope of um, occupational health. That is the, again stressing on it, the anticipation, evaluation and control of health risks at the workplaces. Then moving forward, what are the modes of assessment? The assessment includes the using epidemiology. The epidemiology, through epidemiology, the surveillance of and the diseases and the risk factors, then mapping of these risk factors, and then research studies and through epidemiology. This is the extensive use of epidemiology includes in and the modes of assessment. Then medical statistics or biostatistics will quantify the exposures, the toxicities, and mortality, morbidity data related to the workers and workplaces. So the knowledge of statistics and epidemiology, they are extensively used for the assessment. Then health screening of the workers, screening of both exposure and the amount of exposure to the workers is the screening process. The most extensive screening processes, targeted screening processes, are used for the occupational health. Then occupational surveillance, we make the targeted list, prioritized list of risks, and then try to prevent them. And then workplace assessment, facility and environment. Then ergonomics is the study of interaction of human with the machines or the mechanical processes. And this is ergonomics is extensively used. We will take on a separate lecture on ergonomics, but here I remind you, it is the most commonly used tool for the assessment of the human interaction with the machines. Then social securities and insurances is also the modes of assessment at workplaces. The interaction of workplaces, then the common interactions are the worker and the environment. This is the interaction. We will deal with these type of interaction, what happened when worker is exposed to the environment. Then worker and the machine interaction is most important in occupational health. Then worker and the human interactions. These are the human to human, worker to worker interaction, and the worker and employer interaction. So these are the interaction which are occurring at the workplaces. Now, worker and environment. The environment is classified as physical and the hazards associated with the environment are physical and mechanical hazards, the chemical hazards, the biological hazards, and psychological hazards. So that is why the worker and the environment interaction, they are very important. Then interaction of the human and the machine. This include unguarded mechanical functions, and the unguarded mechanical functions will lead to accidents, auditory and visual effects on the human health. Then mental causes mental stress. When the unguarded functions are there, then awkward posture may arise. The awkward posture may lead to back sprains, postural deformities, disease of the muscle and the joints. Then exceeding work capacity. The exceeding work capacity may lead to when there is repetitive functions, the local muscle fatigue can arise, and then generalized body fatigue when the time working hours they are increased in repetitive work. Then the general body fatigue and the local muscle fatigue, these are the consequences of interaction of the human with the machines. Then interaction to the worker and the employer, they are very important in occupational health. The job securities, the salaries and the income of the worker, they are negotiated between the employer and the worker. Then service conditions provided by the employer and demanded by the worker. And then job satisfaction, how much satisfaction is there for jobs, and this is again the interaction between the employer, worker to worker, and the employers. And then degree of responsibilities, then the leadership style. It is very important. There are various styles of leadership, autocratic and and then sportive. In sportive styles, the workers are more satisfied as compared to the autocratic. Then the trade union is between the interaction between the workers, worker to worker, and with the employers. All these factors, uh, interactions, they are associated with the social harmony and social well-being of the worker, and mental well-being and physical mental well-being. So this is a very important component of interactions. Health effect by physical factors. Now we will concentrate on what are the clinical conditions associated with the um, various physical factors, and most important factor is the heat. The heat causes heat stroke. This is the most serious clinical syndrome associated with the heat effect of temperature. Then heat exhaustion is again clinical syndrome associated with the heat. Heat syncope is the sudden unconsciousness due to excessive heat. Then heat cramps in various muscles, heat burns, prickly heat. All these are um, uh, effects associated with the excessive heat are then related to low temperature. There are also clinical conditions like frostbite, chilblain, and trench foot associated with the exposure to excessive cold. Then light causes the general fatigue and loss of efficacy, cataract, and nystagmus when the light is not appropriate for the workers. Then pressures arising at the workplaces causes caissons disease when workers are exposed to work in deep or high altitudes. And then the air embolism, the pressure trauma may occur to the occupational workers. Then more physical factors associated like noise is associated with the auditory fatigue, deafness, and annoyance. The radiation they are associated, and they cause the cancers, leukemia, aplastic anemia, pancytopenia, dermatological lesions, and then electricity. Electricity is associated with electrocution shocks and electric burns. The mechanical factors, um, they cause the injuries and accidents, arthritis, bursitis, and the vibration associated trauma may affect the health of the worker. So these are the physical factors associated with the um, uh, health anomalies or health effects. Then specific hazards due to chemical, they are very important. The workers, they are exposed to gases, various gases to which they are exposed. They are carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, hydrogen cyanide, carbon disulfide, ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, hydrochloric acid, and chlorine. These are common gases which are in the chemical industries and other than the chemical industries, and at various mechanical processes. They cause systemic poisoning. And the local effects. The local effects, they may be the irritation, the dermatitis, and that the poisoning, the acute poisoning is associated with all these gases. Then metal and their compounds. The metal and their compounds, the most commonly exposed workers are exposed to lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, beryllium, chromium, and nickel. All these metals, they sequestered in the body, and they causes metal poisoning. The poisoning may be acute, and it may be chronic poisoning. The acute poisoning may lead to sudden deaths, and the chronic poisoning may lead to the effects of sequestration of the um, metals in the body. For example, the arsenic causes arsenicosis, and the lesions are on the skin, and it also causes chronic poisoning, also causes the body effects on the liver, and heart failure and other systemic effects due to the chronic metal poisoning. Then various solvents are used, that is the benzene, trichloroethylene, and chloroform. they can cause cancer and systemic toxic effects on the body. And then moving forward to more chemicals, the chemicals are acid and alkali. The acid and alkali causes the corrosive effects and burn on the human body. Then pesticide, insecticides, the former and the other workers, they are exposed to organophosphate and ammonia compounds, and they causes systemic poisoning and local effects. Um, Moving forward, the biological hazards of at workplaces, they are also very important. The workers, they work in unhygienic conditions, are in unhygienic environment and unhygienic living conditions, unsafe food and water consumption. These leads to communicable diseases. The communicable diseases may be due to bacteria and viruses and parasites and fungal infections. So, and these are the physical, chemical, and biological hazards at workplaces. Now, we will move forward to the specific syndromes, clinical syndromes by inhalation of the dust particles and fibers, and they are commonly known as pneumoconiosis. Pneumoconiosis is defined as the um, uh, pulmonary conditions are the symptoms, respiratory symptoms due to the inhalation of excessive dust and fibers. These fibers, they are inorganic fiber are dust and organic fibers are dust. The clinical condition associated with inorganic dust are anthracosis by coal dust, then silicosis by silica dust, then asbestosis by asbestos dust, sidrosis by iron dust. These are inorganic. Then organic dust, they include the bagasosis by cane fibers, the bicyanosis by cotton fiber, the tabacosis by uh, tobacco dust, and the former lung disease is caused by hair dust. So these are most important things to be the workers. They must be evaluated. The environment must be evaluated for the inorganic and organic fibers. They are causing serious syndromes commonly known as pneumoconiosis. Then moving forward to the preventive measures, they are very important in the scope of occupational health. The preventive measure includes the substitution, mean either substitution the places or substitution the processes. Then isolation of the process or isolation of the workers. Then local exhaust ventilations, and then monitoring of environment, then periodic medical examination of the workers. The other preventive measures include the engineering measures first, and then substitution and personal protection techniques. The engineering measures include the mechanization. The mechanical process must be changed to homeless, and then ventilation where the dusts are more commonly affecting, then the ventilation is the action that can be preventive action that can prevent the respiratory diseases. The process must be conducted in isolation or in enclosure that may be beneficial to protect the radiation and respiratory diseases. Then suppression. Source suppression means suppression of the dust particles and harmful substances from where they are arising. Isolation of the either process or the worker will protect the workers. Then substitution of toxic chemical substances are the substitution of the processes. Certain processes, if they are mechanically they are changed, then the toxic end product may be converted into non-toxic end product through the process. And the machine substitution, the harmful machines more liable to accident, they may be substituted with the less harmful machines and through the principles of ergonomics. The machine can be substituted. In the last, the personal protections include masks, respirators, shields, aprons, and safety shoes, helmets. So most important, it should be placed at first that the personal protection measures of the health for the health workers. So designing the personal protection measures, the engineering measures, the substitution, these are the general preventive measures in occupational health. And the occupational health physician must be uh, aware of, and he must exercise all these actions to prevent and ensure the health of the workers. Then some explanation about the substitution, and there is examples of substitution. For example, white phosphorus is harmful and it can be substituted to um, uh, sesquified in match industries. Sesquisulfide in match industry. Then lead paint, zinc or iron paint can be used. Mercury salt can be replaced by silver salt. Then benzene can be acetone, changed with acetone, that will become harmless. So this is the last. Then thank you very much on this session.